As we get to the conclusion of the paramedic refresher class every year, I get a lot of questions that are related to how in the world do I renew my National Registry certification. And the easiest thing for you to do is to do this via the online recertification process that's set up by National Registry. If you are choosing to do the paper and pencil type, you're going to need to go to www.nremt.org, and you will have to review the paper policy as to what needs to be done. So for right now, you can still do that. In regards to the online process, this is what the focus of this video segment is going to be. First off, my disclaimer is that I am not affiliated with National Registry. The information that I'm giving you right here is my interpretation of what they're asking for. So I'm not going to assume any responsibility for my correct or incorrect interpretation of what the National Registry is looking for. This is just merely an informational video. If you are looking for exact policies or how to set something else up, you do need to go back to their website right here at www.nremt.org, and all of their information is there. Before we even get started on this, you need to make sure that your service is affiliated and has an account with National Registry. They can do that by, again, going to the National Registry website and setting up as an agency, and that usually takes anywhere to 48 hours to 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you do it, and that because that has to be verified through the Department of Health. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in here, and this is a bunch of information that I put together as I was going through my recertification process. First thing we're going to do is go to the National Registry website, and as I said earlier, if you do not have an account, you're going to need to come in here and create a new account. Most people that have been testing in the past 2 years, at least since 2013, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, have had to register through National Registry to make sure that their both EMT and paramedic certifications are with registry, since the state has gone with them as the exam vendor. So if you've done that, great, you're set to go. Just log in. If you have not assured that your agency is online, you need to make sure that you click on that front page, and it'll explain how you need to do that. Otherwise, put your username and password in, click login, and as soon as you get in here, you're going to note that there is your name will be up here, your registry number, when you're due to expire, and our initial application page, or the page that we open up to, talks about the initial entry application, which you do not need to worry about at this point. You've already done that. And we also need to know about the transition application, and realize that from the paramedic standpoint, that the National Standard Curriculum ended January 1st of 2013. Therefore, all of the transitions for paramedic must be completed by March 31st of 2017. So if you're doing the School of EMS EMT Paramedic Refresher Program, you're actually taking the transition process in the past 2 years. So for the refresher class of 2014 and the refresher class of 2015, those two programs have been set up, that they've been approved by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as a transition program from the EMT paramedic to the paramedic. So that covers everything. One of the big things in here is that what happens if I attended 3 courses in 1 year and 3 courses or 3 modules in the next year? And the answer is, when you combine those two together, you have successfully completed that program. So everything pretty much lines up. So that pretty much handles that. Now, a little hint: if your certification as a paramedic starts off with a letter M as in Mary, that means that you have already transitioned over, and therefore you would not need to transition over again. So from this point on, we're going to click on My Certification, and when you click on My Certification, or when you highlight that, it's going to turn red, and now it's going to move in here and tell us that how many days we have left till we expire. We have to put in information regarding refresher training, our continuing education training, our ACLS, our basically our expiration date, as well as CPR expiration date, and our transition when it was completed. So before you even go any further, you need to make sure that you have this information available so that you can go right through this whole process. I don't want to say it's like filing your taxes, but you do need to have this information readily available. Go ahead and click on Manage Education. When you manage on education, you're going to see everything broken down, and we'll start on a refresher training. So at this point, I need to come over here and add a class. When I click Add a Class, it's going to ask me about my refresher training requirements. Did I do this as a traditional refresher training, or did I do this as a continuing education only in the topic areas? If you've attended our paramedic refresher course, you've done this as a traditional refresher course, so you would click that. Then it's going to ask you the instructional method. When you click on the drop-down menu, you're going to see that there's a number of areas for you to choose from. We're going to choose from lecture. Even though we're doing something via online, but it is not really a computer-based thing. So that's why we are doing this as a lecture. When you click on the lecture, you're then going to go to the date completed. When I did mine, I finished mine last year, which was 3/15 of 2014, I went ahead and just entered that information in, and then my class sponsor is automatically defaulted to my service or my agency sponsor. So I went ahead and changed that, and you can just type in Conemaugh School of EMS if that's who you attended. After you're done with that, you're going to click Save Course. That's simple. Your refresher training is now identified as being complete. Now it's time to move on to your continuing education. Again, click Add Class, and we're going to go for 24 hours. The easiest thing to take a look at here is that these are most of the alphabet courses. You can see that this actually will scroll down a little bit further. I did not put these in this part of this presentation, but you're going to select what best describes the continuing education course that you utilized. It will then ask you, how did you do that? Was it lecture? Was it a case review? Was it an in-service training? Now, some things to just reiterate. If you are actually utilizing the learning management system in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is free to EMS providers in the Commonwealth, that you are doing that as a state-approved computer class. Please keep in mind that you have to go back to the policies that are set forth by National Registry and realize that you can claim no more than 10% of your total time to be on that distributive learning type issue. So make sure that you keep an eye on what you're doing. After you have identified what that topic or what type of instructional method is going to be, you're going to end up putting in your completed date and also who the class sponsor was. Once you have completed and put in 24 hours, that's all you need. If it turns over 24, that's great, but then it is completed. You're going to get that nice little check mark and makes you feel real good. Now we move on to looking at our transition. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and click on our transition. Before I go to that transition, let me show you what pops up here with our continuing ed. It'll show you that if I expand this detail out, see how it has show details up here with the refresher training. I'm doing the same thing here with the continuing ed, and you can see that I've put in at least 3 courses that I'm going to utilize for at least 24 hours of Con Ed. This is said that I've done 29 of 24. I've gone over. Do not put any more in, and quite frankly, it's not going to allow you to do that anyway. So when we go back here, we're looking at the transition. Do you want to transfer from being an EMT paramedic to a paramedic? And in this case, it's either yes or no. So if you've gone through the whole process, go ahead and click yes, and then we move on. When you click yes, it'll then indicate that you're complete, and you're now going to go to your status. You need to make a decision. Are you going to request inactive status? Please make sure that you go back to the policies to identify what that is. Basically, you have to meet all the continuing education requirements. You're just not having somebody fill out your skills, verifying that you're competent in some stuff. If you say, no, I'm going to continue to provide patient care, then this is going to be forwarded on to your medical director as well as your training officer for all those verifications. So once you have selected what you're going to do, in my case, I selected the no, and I now move on. I'm now looking at my ACLS and CPR certifications. National Registry requires you to be ACLS certified. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania does not require you to be certified in ACLS, so that is entirely up to you. Doesn't matter if it's American Heart Association or some other course that is out there, they just want to know about ACLS certification. Put in your month of expiration as well as the year, and then move on to your CPR certification. Your CPR certification again indicates here that you have to, in this case I'm expiring 5 of 2016, and I'm contesting that it is truly valid into that point. And this is required not only at the National Registry level, but it is also required at the state level for your certification. I'm going to go ahead and click Apply. And now it is indicating that I'm pretty much ready to go ahead and submit my recertification. It is quite easy. It is very simple. It's that simple to get to this process. So I click my Submit. It's now going to come up and help me to go through the next 5 steps. First step here is I'm going to verify my information, name, address, phone number, and email address. Anything in there that needs to be changed, I'll go ahead and click edit my profile, problem solved. In the event that you move in the future, you can go right into your account, click your profile, change your address, your phone number, your email address, whatever it may be, and you're set to go. No big forms to fill out. Now I'm verifying that everything is correct. I'm going to click the next button, and it now makes me go to the validating my agency. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, if your agency is not in here, you're going to need to make sure that they get in, and it's going to take 24 to 48 hours, sometimes 3 or 4 more days until all that stuff is processed, depending on holidays and weekends and stuff like that. So I'm verifying that my agency is correct, and then I'm going to click on the next. And now I'm selecting my card type. National Registry, as well as many other programs, are going now to the ability to create an e-card for you. In this case, you can either print the card on your own, or you prefer to have a printed card mailed to you. If it's going to be mailed to you, it's going to take about up to 10 business days until it gets processed and gets out to you. I just chose the no, I'm going to print it, and the good news is that I can print my card pretty much at any time. So there we go. I also have my receipt that's going to be available here in a little bit. After I have chosen that, I'm going to click Next. It asks me about any disciplinary actions. Basically, have I been placed on probation or suspended from practicing in any type of healthcare occupation, or did I even voluntarily surrender anything? This really also means that if you had disciplinary action in regards to your medical command status, you're going to have to mark this as a yes, and then you'll have to provide additional information to National Registry as they require. In my case, I'm clicking no, and I'm going to move on to the next area. It's now asking me about criminal convictions, and it wants to know, since my last certification, have I been convicted of anything, including a general court-martial? Very simple, yes or no. Anytime that you mark this, you need to make sure that if it's a yes, that you also submit the paperwork as required to the Pennsylvania Department of Health to assure that your state certification is also going to be marked for that with that information as well. After I've chosen the one that I need, I'm going to go ahead and select the next button. And after I click next, I now am verifying my education, that I have my refresher training has been completed at 48 hours. My continuing education, I'm required 24, I have 29. I'm good to go. I go ahead and confirm that. Any mistakes, go in here to manage my education, and I can go back through that process again. I'm verifying my ACLS and my CPR certifications. It tells me that my expiration dates are current. I got the great green check marks here. Verify that it is current. Any changes, click Manage My Education. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm verifying my status as to whether or not I'm going to be active or inactive, and then I'm going to click Next, and now I'm looking at the transition to paramedic. This is where a lot of people get confused. Your certifications or any of your continuing ed programs must be submitted to the training officer of your agency that you have listed on file. So that means that when they get this in their registry account information, they are verifying that what you submitted is correct, including the transition to the paramedic program. Transition from the EMT paramedic to the paramedic. The certificates have to meet the policies that are set forth by National Registry. So therefore, you need to make sure that you have a copy of that as well as your employer, so that when they take a look at that, everything is good to go. You do not, I'll repeat, do not send anything into the National Registry unless they ask you for it. So just don't drop it in the mail and send it in just so that they have it. You're doing everything electronically. You don't need to send anything else in. Once I've clicked I've done whatever I need to do with regards to transition, I'll click next. And of course, now I need to make sure that I'm verifying my payment method. It's $20 for your 2-year renewal. Please make sure that you go back and take a look to the 2017. There's going to be changes in relationship to fees that are affiliated or associated with the National Registry. I'll select my payment method. In this case, I went with my credit debit card, and after I enter in all the information, I'll click the next and make sure that I am verifying my payment. It's cleared, it's approved. Go ahead and print your receipt so that if you're utilizing it for reimbursement or if it qualifies for any tax purposes, go ahead and make sure that you have that information. Then you will note that there's 2 other areas: a training officer, in which the status from the training officer is pending, that they're verifying that you're affiliated with that agency, and then the medical director is also then verifying that you've been assigned to that agency and that everything that you also have put in there is correct. When they have gone through that process, you will note that they will get an approved area. Once it's an approved area, you're set to go. Your certification or your renewal is available. You can end up printing out your card as needed. If, in fact, you were audited, all you need to do is follow the rules that are set forth, what they tell you to do. So send something in, great. You need to have all of your continuing education records printed out. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania allows you to have that information readily available at your hands. It's almost instantaneous right now, but I will caution you on one thing. We utilize case review grand rounds anywhere from 1 hour to 4 hours, and in some cases they can go even higher. If you do not have a certificate that indicates exactly what was covered during that time frame, you need to make sure that everything is going to line up, because there's no tracking mechanism put forth into that. It's basically a generic number that says that there is a case review that is occurring. So you may be required to submit information on those cases as well. I haven't been audited, so I don't know what else they would ask you for. Just one of those things you need to make sure that you're keeping track of for future purposes. With that, that's the conclusion of my little video presentation on how to renew for National Registry. I hope this video has been very informative for you, and I look forward to seeing you at some continuing education class. Thanks.